Mercedes, wide chip, Ricky. Zebra left, 75, Katie, Omaha. We're good.
The SleeperWire Pro-Am is back.
It's time to go eat, baby. Let's eat.
This is our third season and the biggest one yet. We had 2 leagues last year and we're looking to double that this year. You, the listeners, get to play in a real fantasy football league with pros and shows from around the industry. Last year we had a great roster. We had Marcus Grant, Jake Seeley, Matt Harmon, Sleeperbot, the Fantasy Football Fellas, Eat Sleep Fantasy, and many more. And we're expanding that to include more pros and shows than ever.
Stop talking about it, man. Let's get this going right now.
Visit www.sleeperwire.com/pro-am for more details.
Hey, quick question. Where'd you get the name Tobrepeels at?
Tobrepeels is just Sleeperbot backwards.
Okay. Oh,
yeah, now you can't unsee it, can you?
No, you just blew my mind. Okay. Show's over. That's the show.
I'm ready for
Welcome, everybody, to the SleeperWire Show. I'm your host, Professor Chris. Today is Thursday, May 3rd, and we finally know where all these rookies are going to be playing this next year, so we can stop listening to these stupid NFL mock drafts that are totally wrong. Anyway, no more speculation, no more guessing. We're good now. We know where they're going to be. We have a very special guest on the show today. Great friend of the show, Nan Wong, the CEO of the great Sleeperbot fantasy football app. He's going to come on the show here in a little bit. I also have Draft Genius with me. What's going on, man?
What's going on, man? I'm very excited to get into this episode of SleeperWire and basically let the listeners just find their pot of gold in this episode. That's what it is, a bunch of gold, you know, so I'm ready.
All right, so our quick question for the day. How often on an average day do you check Sleeperbot for alerts or to provide analysis?
Man, look, I've been on Sleeperbot for the past 3 days, probably, I want to say 3 hours at least, you know, just all combined, checking back and forth, because I'm doing about 4 drafts right now. You know, big time Dynasty feature just came out, and I'm the Dynasty guy, you know, that's my thing. So I'm all up in there, and I mean, man, it's the most used app on my phone, definitely. How about you?
Yeah. Oh, mine's the exact same way. I probably open up the app at least 20 times a day. And then that's just like whether I'm like watching TV on the couch and a commercial comes on or something like that, I'll just check it real quick. So on an average day, I would probably say at least an hour total. I know it's significantly more on days where I have Chinese food. Yeah, I'm on there all the time. And the reason I asked that question is because we do have the CEO coming on the show here in a little bit. But we're going to kick it off with some news here. All right, so Teddy Bridgewater in the news. He is healthy and throwing in the offseason program, according to Jets general manager Mike McCagnon. So, Bridgewater or Darnold this year?
Man, they need to stick with Bridgewater, to be honest. You know, all the reports of him not being a lock to make the roster, I think, are a bunch of mumbo-jumbo. I mean, Teddy B, man, yeah, he had that big injury, but his first 2 years in the league, you know, he was borderline
terrible.
I wouldn't say terrible.
Played 16 games through 14 touchdowns in both seasons.
Yeah, definitely. But he also provides that running yards, you know. I think he's a good fantasy option, you know, if you're going the streaming QB ways, you know what I mean? You know how some people just don't even they don't even draft a quarterback. You know, they just wait and get one in free agency and just stream. I think he'd be really good in that Jets offense, and Darnold can learn from him instead of Darnold going in right away. Darnold has to work on these turnovers. He led the NCAA in turnovers. That's very embarrassing. Teddy B, you know, in 15, he had, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but you said 3,000 yards and 14 touchdowns. I know he had 3 on the ground for sure. I mean, that's 17 touchdowns.
Yeah, so I've got it pulled up right here. I've got it pulled up. So 2014, he played 13 games, 2,900 passing yards, 14 touchdowns, and then he also had 12 picks. So 14 touchdowns, 12 picks, and a bunch of fumbles. Not that year, but in 2015, played all 16 games, 3,200 yards, once again 14 touchdowns, but he only had 192 rushing yards. It's not like he was this super safe floor for rushing. That's barely over a point a game.
Right.
From rushing. And he threw 14 picks and fumbled it 3 times that year. He did get 3 rushing touchdowns in addition to his 14 passing. And he might be a good quarterback for a team, but I think he's a terrible fantasy quarterback.
Well, it also has to do with the the scheme that they run. The Jets aren't really a running offense like Minnesota was in 14-15. 14-15, we saw, AP, it was more of a ground and pound attack in the Minnesota offense of those years. Just really in 16 and 17, we saw them really go and air it out. But I don't know, man. I'm really staying away from the Jets completely in fantasy. Even any part of the Jets in fantasy, I'm staying away from. But it's good that he's throwing.
Yeah, it's good for him. He seems like a very likable guy. I want to root for him, but I don't want to have him as a fantasy quarterback.
Yeah, and I'm not drafting him. Just he's a streaming option, definitely.
If he's the starter, he certainly could be in a 2-quarterback league. Well, we have some Colts news this week. Before I get to the ones that are in the show notes, there was something that happened recently, an alert that just came out that Marlon Mack is recovering from off-season shoulder surgery. And I don't remember hearing that he was going to have a surgery.
It never came out. It was never a big feature news item that came out. But you saw the Colts draft Jordan Wilkins, is it? And then Nyheim Hines, both of them. So I don't think that they're set on him being the all-around starter. I'm staying away from that backfield in Dynasty right now. I just traded all my shares of Marlon Mack away. And in redraft, in the couple of redraft leagues I will do this year, I'm not drafting that backfield because I think it's going to be a full-blown committee. You have Jordan Wilkins who can, he can pound the rock, but he's not a third down option. And then you have Nyheim Hines who can kind of do everything, but he's just not efficient with every single touch. I really like Nyheim Hines, but that's more of a long-term play. Marlon Mack,
he's also tiny.
Yeah, he's tiny.
5'9", 195 pounds, something like that. He's a really little guy. He's certainly not the first and second down back. He's not going to be carrying the ball all the time.
No, I mean he'd have to be. It would have to be. Well, he's not even as big as Jerick McKinnon. I was going to say, something like Jerick McKinnon, but I don't know, man. It's just Marlon Mack last year. He kind of had that shot, for a little while to get the feature back role. He had that shot to be featured, and then they bring in Jordan Wilkins, 6th round, I think it was. He got drafted. I'm not 100% sure. 5th round, and then Nyheim Hines. And now Hines at North Carolina State, I know he had over 1,000 yards last year, 12 touchdowns on the ground, and he wasn't really that receiving back last year. He was more of the receiving back in 2016. So I think maybe he kind of developed more of a willingness to run hard and attack the hole. But, I mean, they're all kind of small in that backfield. I mean, Wilkins is, 6'2"? That's your best shot if you're trying to get the goal line back in that offense. But I'm kind of staying away from that. I'm more interested in their passing game.
Yeah, I still think the Colts are going to bring in C.J. Anderson. That would not surprise me at all.
That would make me so happy. Especially
with this news on Marlon Mack that surgery, we heard, or we actually don't know anything about Andrew Luck's shoulder surgery, if it was successful or not, because he won't pick up a damn football. But the Colts also waived running back Matt Jones, who I completely forgot was still on the roster, and they brought in undrafted free agent quarterback J.T. Barrett from Ohio State. But he decided that the Saints would be a better landing spot for him, so he signed there. Most likely because Breeze is nearing the end of his career, so there's a chance he'll be a starter sooner, rather than Andrew Luck, who is hopefully coming into his prime years. But we'll speculate on that later. Baker Mayfield's agent said that the Patriots considered moving up to number 2 to take him, and I would have thought it was hilarious if that happened and the Browns drafted him anyway. So it's good thing they didn't do that.
I wouldn't. I hate the Patriots. I just can't. They keep drafting all my Georgia guys, huge Georgia fan, and they're kind of ruining my fandom because I can't root for anybody in the NFL from Georgia because they're all on the damn Patriots. And going back real quick before I forget to the J.T. Barrett and stuff, or even the running back situation, keep an eye on DeMarco Murray. I've been hearing whispers that they might bring him in because he'll be cheaper than Anderson, and he runs a lot like Gore, so they wouldn't have to change that much on the running scheme. And then J.T. Barrett, I heard that it was more of a Ohio State connection because they have Michael Thomas there who knows Barrett, from a few years at Ohio with him, and Sean Payton got to really know Barrett a little bit outside of, the football matters and stuff, because he was around Ohio players whenever he would go and scout. So that's just something to keep an eye on. And then, I hate the Patriots. That's all I have to say about Baker.
Oh, Pete Carroll referred to first-round pick Rashad Penny as a 3-down back. And honestly, it doesn't matter if a running back's a 3-down back if he's running behind the worst offensive line in the NFL.
I totally agree. I like Chris Carson, but Penny can give him a good run for his money. Carson runs mean, and Penny put up a 2,000-yard season, which you never see happen. So I can't really say anything against that. Good luck.
Yeah, rooting for you, but probably not going to happen this year until they get some more. They might as well play with 3 offensive linemen, because it would still be the same as them playing with 5.
Right.
The Eagles re-signed Darren Sproles, so he's going back there. And Hugh Jackson confirmed that Tyrod Taylor is the Browns' starting quarterback. But that also could mean that Tyrod Taylor will start the first series of the season.
Man, I love Tyrod. I love Tyrod, but it's, it'd be smart, in a long-term sense for Baker to learn from Tyrod. His most comparable quarterback, besides Drew Brees in the NFL, is Tyrod. Their games are the exact same, Tyrod and Baker. If you put them side by side on film, they make the same amount of throws. Tyrod is a little bit more crumbled under pressure because I guess he's never had that good team around him, that good core team, and Baker's had a great team throughout Oklahoma. So I think that it'd be smart letting him play behind Tyrod, but it's the NFL and it's the Browns. They're the team that shoves the rookie quarterback into the fire the quickest, so we'll see.
We certainly will.
We want to thank you for listening to the SleeperWire Show, the most interactive and accessible fantasy sports podcast out there right now. If you want to reach us anytime, you can join our new Facebook group. Just search for SleeperWire Fantasy Football Club on the Facebook groups. Join us there. Find us on the SleeperWire channel in the Sleeperbot app. We're on the Fantasy Life app, and you can go to our webpage, sleeperwire.com. Look for the advice section. You can send us email questions. We answer within 24 hours or less. Oh, and lest I forget, we do 2 live shows a week during the season, the Wednesday Mail Sack and the Sunday Morning Blitz, where we answer your questions and take your calls live on the air. So keep in touch with us all year through these ways and more, only on the SleeperWire Show.
This is Sean Merriman, and you're listening to the SleeperWire Show.
All right, and now we are going to move into our interview with Nan Wong, the CEO of Sleeperbot. Nan, how's it going, man?
Hey, Chris. It's good to be back on. It's going well. We're getting ready for the upcoming season. Pretty busy for us in the off season, as you can imagine, but we're really excited with all the upcoming developments that we have in store.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you said good to be back on. I think you may have the most appearances out of any guest. This is like 5 or 6 now, isn't it?
Nice. I should start getting paid for this, huh?
Yeah, you know what? After we get paid for this, man.
That's a good cause. I think one of the things that I love about what you guys have put together is that, from its origin, it was centered around a common purpose to help out Rob. And I think just it fosters a sense of community on the app that really, really permeates through to the moderators, to the analysts, as well as to the other folks that are kind of using it for just general fantasy advice and information. But it's really starting to become a place where people are getting to know each other, and the personalities are starting to emerge. But you guys, we've been really happy about supporting you guys because you guys were centered around a common mission that really made sense, and that came from somewhere that was tried and true. You guys have grown over time, too, which is great. Like adding new folks and building out the platform. The website's coming together quite nicely. The podcast is obviously continue to gain users, and it's a testament to the hard work and having the right direction. So major applause.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. We're doing some cool stuff this summer. We are putting together a pretty killer draft kit right now, which I have on the show, Draft Genius, as I introduced earlier. He is killing it for us. So it's going to be great this year.
Very big plans.
Yeah, big plans.
And you mentioned that you guys were doing a lot more on the Dynasty side too, right? With Draft Genius coming on board.
Yep, right. Dynasty, Rookie, IDP, and even some Devy stuff.
The show's called DynastyWire.
Nice. And when does it run? So the other listeners and other Sleeperbot, I guess, members will be able to know when to tune in for you guys?
Right now, just trying to put out about 2 shows at minimum a week. And trying to do Tuesdays and Thursdays, but sometimes they come out on the weekends, if it's a longer show. What we basically do is if we have a guest, it'll be a longer show. It'll be an hour, hour and a half with that big interview in the chunk of it. Every show is just jam-packed with info, and that's it. Really, really hot takes. You might burn yourself on a few, but you're not going to get burned by them. So.
I like it. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in here. Man, I'm sure you've been asked this on the show a bunch of times, maybe on any other show that you've been on. But for our newer listeners, why don't we start by you telling us your motivation for creating Sleeperbot?
Yeah, no, I mean, Sleeperbot really is a group of really, really close friends who just love sports and love fantasy football, in particular. My co-founders and I, we've known each other since we were about 5 years old, right? And despite living in different parts of the world, one of the things that kind of centered us as we were growing up was that we had a common love for fantasy, and every year we'd get together and play against each other, and that would continue to maintain that friendship over time. We started with basketball and then eventually moved on to football, and now football is probably the primary passion for us. But, we decided that we saw an opportunity to really just improve on existing products in the space, right? Fantasy's been around for 30, 35 years, started on spreadsheets, eventually migrated off, and Yahoo created a web portal for it. And then ESPN came along, CBS came along, and then, the mobile generation, these folks tried to put together mobile apps, but really nobody's been able to keep up with the pace of technology advancement in a way where, they've created products that fans deserve, right? And what I mean specifically by that is most people still play on primarily web-based platforms that are running on Flash technology. What that means is it's slow to load. It's still primarily ad-driven, so your experience on these platforms is basically you're going there to get your research and stats, but also being bombarded and inundated for, new car sales advertisements you saw, or, whatever else they've kind of tried to funnel through those banner ad platforms. And so when we thought about it, we started off by creating, tools and advice information to really help, address the low-hanging fruit around kind of research, right? We started with alerts. How do we do alerts fast, quickly, without ads? And how do we deliver information to people without all that clutter? That was the first iteration of Sleeperbot, and we found that, fantasy sports fans resonated well with it. So we continue to build on that. We went from alerts to helping people sync their leagues and offer customized advice. Then we offered player stats. We offered trending analysis. Then we offered kind of full-on league sync to support your ESPN and Yahoo leagues. And so as we continue to develop, we really listened to what the community wanted and tried to iterate on product from that angle. But at the end of the day, all of that really was driven by this desire to upgrade the experience that was currently out there on these old antiquated platforms. And the latest evolution of the product was us taking on, as you guys know, actually building in full-on vertically integrated season-long leagues, which we launched last year. And so Sleeperbot's been an evolution of a product, but it's driven by the same constant need for us to really build products that we would use and our friends would use.
Well, you've never answered that question before, have you?
That was all the details.
It's something that we think about a lot, right? And there's this mantra in startup land where it's you want to really build something for yourself, right? You need to understand the product, understand the pain points of the users. Otherwise, you're always an interloper trying to create a product that you only scratch the surface on in terms of your own personal expertise or content knowledge. And for us, at the end of the day, whether Sleeperbot, becomes a multi-billion-dollar business or not, we're proud that we built it and our friends use it. And that's the driving force for us. And it's Apple, it's I guess a cherry on top, not an apple, a cherry on top that that users are responding well and supporting us along this journey, right? So it's super gratifying for us and super motivating when we get messages of support for folks in the Sleeperbot community, when we get additional feature requests, and when people engage and help guide us along this way. And so, I mean, the community has been tremendous in terms of that. And we've gotten a lot of our feature ideas from people like you guys and other users.
You guys have certainly built a great community. I'm on there. I get on there multiple times per day, and I see the same people who have started to know each other. They're talking about their leagues out in the public chats and everything. It's getting pretty cool. What has been, based on feedback you've gotten from users, what was the most requested thing to come back? What was people's favorite thing? Yeah,
so last year it was league sync. So when we did the redesign and trying to do a full-on season-long league, which I admittedly was a little bit ambitious for us. I mean, just to give your listeners a little bit of background, the Sleeperbot team is 4 engineers, a designer, and then myself. So we're all just kind of a very, very small and nimble team. And we basically tried to build a season-long commissioner tool platform that basically ESPN and Yahoo have had 15 years to iterate on in 1 year. And it was a Herculean task, and I'm very thankful for all the effort that our team put in to get it out in basically a single year. And we'll continue to iterate on it. But as we were building that, obviously some of the other features that we had to support fell a little bit by the wayside just by not having enough time to kind of focus on that, or not enough resources. So we had to scrap League Sync as part of the redesign in the early season. And so a lot of users who weren't on Sleeperbot leagues, felt that was a gap that we needed to address, because they still wanted to get the information and alerts tied to the leagues who were playing on ESPN, Yahoo, and CBS. Eventually, we reintroduced it back into the app, but it wasn't until I think about week 6 or 7 that we were able to truly get to it. So that was probably the most requested feature last year. I think there's still, for this year, consideration from the team for trying to bring back cookies as well. I would say that's probably the second most requested feature, and we're trying to carve out time to be able to integrate that in.
So I got a question for you. What, can you explain the cookie feature for those who just hopped into Sleeperbot, post-cookie, basically?
Yep. So the cookie is basically a way to recognize other users for giving you good advice or having funny comments. It's kind of an in-app karma, right? So like you have a subset of cookies tied to your profile or your account. You ask a question, somebody helps you out, you gift them a cookie, and they accumulate cookies into their bank. It's a way to delineate between like folks who are truly helpful, or who are funny, or who provide good insight and commentary in these chat discussions, versus those who don't. And it's a good way to actually build and deepen relationships as well.
That's great. That's great, because I know I have a bunch of cookies on my account, and I can't use them right now, so I'm excited to see how I'm going to use them.
You mentioned one of the new features last year, obviously the Sleeperbot leagues, which were overall basically hugely successful and were great. They were just very easy to use. The app got a new interface that was streamlined. You introduced channels to people so that they could create their own little areas in Sleeperbot, whether it for us creating our SleeperWire channel, or there's one for baseball, there's one for the NBA, there's one that's just, I think it's called Babes, where it's just a different picture of a girl in a bikini every day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There's a bunch of user-created channels. So I think what happens on Sleeperbot is we open that feature up to basically allow any subgroups to form a la Reddit style.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people are creating tons of different things. So we'll probably rein that in a little bit going forward. The intent for us to actually leverage the channel is to actually be to have it focus a lot on other sports as well as teams, and to have discussion communities form around that. So one of the features we've been working on this off season is basically indexing every piece of news or information out there relative to sports on the entire internet, delivering that in a customized format. So if you're an Indianapolis Colts fan, which you are, I think, yep. Then you'll have a Colts dedicated feed where you could talk about Colts dedicated news. And anytime anything Colts related hits the internet, it'll populate onto there.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the things that I really liked that you introduced last year was the draft board. Even if you weren't doing a league in Sleeperbot, it was still a free draft board that was very, very, very easy to use, easy to connect and hook up onto a TV. Just a lot of new features were really good last year. Can you give us a sneak peek at some that are coming this offseason that maybe you haven't announced yet?
Yeah, so we've made a lot of improvements to the draft board too. I mean, it was okay. It was pretty good last year. We were pretty happy with it, but we learned from just kind of user feedback that people wanted basically a CPU to auto draft for people. So we added that in for this year, and so you didn't have to wait for somebody who wasn't there or have a commissioner manually pick. We just set it to auto pick, so that drafts happen much more smoothly. We've also pulled in real-time ADP information, and so part of it is kind of indexing draft data from around the web, but also most of it, and especially as the season gets closer, is based on internal draft data on Sleeperbot itself, where the CPU gets smarter the more drafts that happen. And so if you're mock drafting or if somebody's auto drafting, it'll be based on basically last 24 hours actual draft data from actual users in actual leagues. Instead of having like rankings that are updated once a week, it'll be real-time data. So there's stuff like that people won't necessarily see in terms of the UI, but will overall improve the experience drastically in terms of just kind of facilitating better data for drafts as well as more responsive drafts. On the season-long experience, we're adding in better research capabilities, like individual player stats, more news integrations. We're adding team news in. We're focused a lot more on actually enhancing the chat experience amongst league mates as well. And we're also doing a complete redesign of the app to make it much more navigable. So one of the biggest complaints and one of the biggest kind of areas of feedback from users last year were that people who weren't in leagues found it somewhat difficult to navigate to news and alerts and channels. And so we're trying to make it easier in a way where it doesn't take 2 clicks to get the news or 3 clicks to get the news. It takes 1 click to get the news if that's all you're interested in. The other thing we're focused on is how to fit all these different components into a user interface that makes it easy for people to kind of jump around and back and forth. And so, Chris, you've been with us for a while. You remember the old design from 2 seasons ago?
Yes.
Right? With the drawers and like the left panel and the right panel. A lot of those elements from that. And people loved that design. And we think that if we can integrate some of the new features into a design similar to that, it'll be a much better experience. So you'll see, starting I think in July, a lot of these design components being reintegrated into the app to make it much easier to use.
Well, I'm not sure if we've told you this yet, or at least you and I haven't spoken, but we are going to be doing the SleeperWire Pro-Am on Sleeperbot this year, and we are super pumped to have you guys be a part of it once again. And it was great having you in there last year and the year before. We're hoping to have enough pros and shows and listeners to have 4 leagues this year. So I'll commission one of them. Hoops will commission another. I'm sure Dirty Jobs Mike will commission one. And if we have enough, we'll find someone to commissioner the 4th league. All that said, why is Sleeperbot the best choice to host the SleeperWire Pro-Am for 2018?
Well, very easy. It's a better platform. I think if you ask somebody who'd driven a Model T why they'd still ride a horse buggy, not to overuse kind of a cliche, but that's kind of the case with this. It's like, why use antiquated platforms that really aren't focused on the user experience, aren't headed in the right direction in terms of taking feedback and iterating on it and adding new features that people actually want? And like, why stay on old, web-based platforms that take forever to load? Why use platforms that crash in week 2? I mean, we had a small bug, but we weren't actually down for like an entire day, right?
Right. People were still able to set their lineups.
Right. And we're responsive, and we'll help you fix it, right? So there's that customer service element to it too, right? Imagine sending a support ticket over to ESPN. Good luck getting a response on that. But I think it's all headed in the right direction. And if you want to be a part of the new trend of just kind of a better platform to play your season leagues on, you should definitely use Sleeperbot.
I love that answer. Well, hey, that's all the time that we have with Nan today. Why don't you tell our listeners where they can follow you, find you, all that good stuff?
Yeah, you can follow us on Twitter at Sleeperbot. You can find me on the app at Tobrepeels, which is Sleeperbot backwards. And then Instagram, which we have a very limited presence, is Sleeper_bot. But if you want a league or like we're a commissioner, we sent out rings and T-shirts for our first year early adopters who supported us. Feel free to tag us, and we'll give you a shout-out on that. And one other thing I would like to say is that, like, as of yesterday, we also launched Dynasty and Keeper features. So if you're in a Dynasty and Keeper league, you can start those leagues now.
Just a warning, man. I might have to contact you to come on my show now, since you're bringing up Dynasty. We're going to have to kind of delve into the depths of the ocean of Dynasty. It's a big market, so who better else than you?
Yep, happy to help. And as we continue to develop, we'd love basically feedback from the Dynasty community as well, right? I think one of the really interesting things about what we're building right now is all the users are at the ground level to define the experience, right? We're here and we're resources to shape that next generation of leagues and league platforms. And so, like, the closer we are to the user and the more feedback that we get, the better we can make the product.
Awesome. Yep, that's what Dynasty is all about. You bring up community and stuff, Sleeperbot community. That's huge in Dynasty, having that community. So, man, you're all on a better track than most. Keep it up.
Killing it once again. Well, thank you so much, Nan, for coming on the show. We certainly appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to, beating you in the Pro-Am and having you on the show again.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Let's move into our next segment here. Fantasy winners and losers from this past week's draft. Because, something important happened last week, right? We have a little bit to talk about. So I've got the most fantasy relevant draft pick for each team right here, and I want you to give me one quick answer about which player on that team either wins or loses. And Draft Genius is going to approach this with a dynasty mindset, and I'm going to approach it with the redraft mindset. So let's kick it off with the Arizona Cardinals. These guys really had two who were fantasy relevant. Josh Rosen, taken with the 10th pick in the first round, and wide receiver Christian Kirk, taken in the second round at the 15th pick there.
I'd say the loser is David Johnson, and that's in a dynasty perspective because teams will force Josh Rosen to pass on him. They're going to say, look, you're this big dude coming out of college, big hype, prove it. And then the winners, I would say, is Larry Fitzgerald. Because if Rosen or Bradford, whoever's the starting quarterback, gets it done, all the attention won't be on Fitzgerald. They're going to have to post some attention to Kirk now. Because Kirk is a good receiver. He's a Golden Tate, basically. So he's a winner.
Is this a run-on sentence?
I was trying to keep it short.
There's a lot of commas and semicolons in that one.
No, I was trying to keep it short for you, but Dynasty's a long-term game, so I'm trying to contain my thoughts all into one little burst. It might be a run-on, but pause and get the information, write it down, and then start it again.
I like it. And I think Larry Fitzgerald is certainly the winner here. And as far as redraft goes, I don't see a loser. I don't think Josh Rosen is going to start until Sam Bradford gets injured because they paid the man $20 million. He's going to be the starting quarterback. But Rosen's going to have a chance to learn from a guy who's been in the NFL for a long time. So winner for me, Larry Fitzgerald. Let's move to the Falcons, taking Calvin Ridley with the 26th overall pick.
Winner, Matt Ryan. He has now 2 Alabama wide receivers to throw to. You can't stop them both.
And I was going to say winner, Julio Jones. This is kind of like maybe you can call this a crutch argument because you can argue it two ways. You can say that Ridley being in there hurts Julio because he's going to take targets, but I think Julio's a winner here because it's going to draw coverage.
Definitely.
Baltimore Ravens had 2 pretty good offensive picks in the first round. Hayden Hurst with the 1.25 and Lamar Jackson taken at the last pick in the first round.
Alex Collins. I know it has nothing to do with Hayden Hurst or Lamar Jackson. Just a plug-in. Lamar Jackson's the GOAT, and he will be the GOAT in the NFL. That's a whole nother story. But Alex Collins, man, no backfield benefits more than a draft than him because he is the sole carrier. Who's going to compete with him? Not Dixon, not Javorius Allen. Alex Collins for the go. That's a throwback to my first episode on DynastyWire. He is the winner of this whole draft.
And I actually think Joe Flacco is the winner here because he now has a good tight end again. And Joe Flacco produces good fantasy tight ends. Todd Heap, Ed Dixon, Dennis Pitta, Benjamin Watson. All guys that Flacco threw to and all guys who were really good for fantasy. So I really like Hayden Hurst, and I think that's going to be great for Flacco. I think if Flacco is playing well, Lamar Jackson is not going to start this season.
Definitely. And you tweeted about that today, too, the tight ends. Don't forget that they brought in Mark Andrews, who mainly played slot this past season at Oklahoma. He was played kind of an H-back slot, kind of flared out to the side. Flacco could do wonders with that, man. Flacco might be a sleeper top 12 quarterback.
Yeah, he easily could be. He's got the receiving weapons to do it. Moving on to the Bills here. Josh Allen at the 107. Who is the winner or loser in Buffalo?
I'd say the whole team. Now they can build around somebody, and I believe in Josh Allen's talent, and he's more of a project quarterback. You got to kind of give him a few years, but now they have somebody who they can slowly build up with, and he can learn how to run the offense and build up with the young players. Zay Jones, if they bring in a running back next year, he could build up with him, and I think he can learn a little bit from McCarron. Even though McCarron was a backup, doesn't mean he hasn't learned anything. So I'd say their offensive as a whole is the winner.
Yeah, I would say A.J. McCarron is the loser for Buffalo.
Definitely.
Carolina Panthers drafted DJ Moore with the 24th overall pick. So, winner for me, Cam Newton.
All right. I could definitely see why. It adds him the best, arguably the best receiver in this class. He was my wide receiver 101 in Dynasty. I have a loser, and that's Curtis Samuel. I was huge on Curtis Samuel coming out of Ohio State, and now I'm not so huge on him. DJ Moore is a bigger Curtis Samuel. I mean, they might move Curtis Samuel to like a little slot back, put him in the backfield and run some little trick plays with him. That would probably be where he'd succeed the most.
So who would you take in a redraft? Would you rather have Moore or Samuel?
Definitely Moore. I'm taking Moore right now in redraft 7th round.
All right. I like it. Chicago Bears took Anthony Miller with the 19th pick in the 2nd round.
The winner's Mr. Trubisky. Have you seen how that offense has reamped in 1 year? That's the most improved team, I think, in the NFL, I would have to argue. Anthony Miller's the best slot receiver that was in this whole draft. And he's a thick guy. He's very, very thick. So the winner is Trubisky. Trubisky, 2nd-year Rookie of the Year.
Do you have a loser? Does this hurt Allen Robinson or Taylor Gabriel?
I mean, it won't hurt Allen Robinson because he's more of an X, but Taylor Gabriel can play the Y or the Z, which is the flanker or the slot. And I think Taylor Gabriel has proved to be the Swiss Army knife that he is and can mold himself into wherever they need him to play. So I don't really see a loser here.
Okay, yeah, I had Trubisky as a winner there as well. The Bengals took Mark Walton at the 412 running back out of Miami. So they've got Mixon, Bernard, and Walton, who is very similar to Gio, isn't he?
Yes, and that's my loser, Gio. I mean, look, I'm a Gio fan, but there gets a point in time whenever you're on a team for 5-6 years, you got to go.
Now, does it hurt Mixon at all?
I don't think it hurts Mixon because Gio was prominent in the offense last year, and he caught a bunch of passes, and I think his last 5 weeks, he put up double digits every week in fantasy. I could be mistaken, based on scoring, but I think Walton can be that rookie for you. Dive for him in the 4th round of your rookie draft, and you got to steal.
All right, and I would say for redraft, basically the same thing. Yeah, it's got to be Bernard. I don't think he's draftable at this point.
Me neither. I mean, if he is, it has to be a deep redraft league to where you are having, 12 bench spots, and he's the pick you make right before you pick a defense if you pick a defense.
Cleveland Browns took Baker Mayfield with the 1st overall pick in the draft, the 101, and Nick Chubb with the 203. Carlos Hyde is a loser.
Man, I'm sorry, Carlos Hyde. I'm very sorry. You have had the crappiest opportunity the past 2 years. Everybody's trying to say you don't deserve a job. I think Carlos Hyde's a top 6 talent in the league. But as far as running back goes, Nick Chubb will be the future there. So the winner is the young players, whether that's Baker, Chubb, Duke Johnson, whoever you want to look at. And the straight losers, Carlos Hyde.
Is Tyrod Taylor a loser?
It depends the way you look at the Baker situation. Kind of like I explained earlier, the way that they should do things is let Baker learn from Tyrod, not shove him in as a starter right away. And I don't think they paid Tyrod the money they did or the compensation they did to get Tyrod, which is a 3rd round pick. That's a really good pick in a draft. You can get good people. You could get a Royce Freeman. You get a Naheem Hines, at running back. Strictly, you could have got a good tight end right there. Not that they need a tight end, but just saying players who are in the 3rd round. So I think Tyrod is the starter, definitely, going forward. But, man, it's the Browns. So I don't know what to expect with them anymore.
Yeah, on paper they should go 16-0.
Definitely.
Let's see how Hugh Jackson messes it up once again. Moving on here, the Dallas Cowboys took Michael Gallup with the 17th pick in the 3rd round, wide receiver out of Colorado State.
I hope you air this show after my rookie draft finishes right now because, man, Michael Gallup will be a star in this league. Dak is the biggest winner. They're going to form a bond, Michael he's a G. He's a gangster on the field. This guy is really, really good, and I love him. At one point, he was my wide receiver 1 this season in all rookies. He was above DJ Moore, above Sutton, above Calvin Ridley. There's something about the way this dude plays. He's so fluid in his motions, and I think him and Dak can finally have that wide receiver that he builds a rapport with, where he doesn't have to rely on Zeke. We saw whenever Zeke went down last year how he struggled. Now he's going to have somebody to help him not struggle. He has a good young wide receiver core there besides Beasley. This is a young group of guys that can build for a championship season coming soon.
Moving on to the Denver Broncos, Royce Freeman, the 307 running back out of Oregon.
I'd say winner. Case Keenum is the winner now. He has somebody to build an efficient run game.
And Devontae Booker is the loser. The Detroit Lions took Kerryon Johnson with the 11th pick in the second round, the running back out of Auburn. And once again, LeGarrette Blount can't catch a break. He is a loser in this draft.
I agree, and Amir Abdullah is going to get traded or cut.
Yeah,
So
probably. Is anyone going to want Amir Abdullah?
I mean, he's young, so why not take a shot on him?
I guess. Green Bay Packers took Jamon Moore with the 33rd pick in the fourth round. I'm guessing it was a compensatory pick, wide receiver out of Missouri.
I love him.
More or less than Equanimous St. Brown.
Yep, more than Equanimous St. Brown. I think Equanimous is a joke, to be honest, but that's just me. Geronimo Allison is the loser.
Okay, wow. He didn't even come to mind. I was thinking Randall Cobb, but nope, Allison. I agree. Houston Texans, I don't think they had a tight end on the roster. They took tight end from University of Central Florida, Jordan Akins, with the 34th pick in the third round. Winner, Deshaun Watson for me.
Loser, Stephen Anderson, who I was hoping would take that leap this year. He's a tight end there. I think he's the only tight end on the roster.
Yeah, they lost a bunch.
Definitely.
The Indianapolis Colts took Nyheim Hines with the fourth pick in the fourth round, running back out of North Carolina State. Loser for me is Marlon Mack.
Winner for me is NC State. They had the deepest roster this year and proved it in this draft. Loser's Marlon Mack, of course.
And you know what? Real quick, I was never a big believer in Marlon Mack being the first and second down guy anyway. Yeah, we talked about that at the beginning of the show. But so he's a fantasy loser here. Jacksonville Jaguars took DJ Shark with the 29th pick in the second round, wide receiver from LSU.
Everybody's a loser whenever you have to rely on a Jaguar. This is the most confusing offensive picture I've ever seen in a season. Dante Moncrief comes in, Hearns is out, Allen Robinson's out, DD, Keelan Cole, Shark.
Marquise Lee.
Marquise Lee, pick your poison.
So, loser, any one of those guys.
Yeah.
Pick a wide receiver from the Jaguars, and they are a loser.
Basically, I like Lee because you could get him the least draft capital in your league, and he's their potential wide receiver one again.
Yeah, I like him too. I would agree with your take there. Losers are the other wide receivers. Kansas City Chiefs, they spent all 6 of their draft picks on defense. So, winner,
Kareem
let's
Hunt.
go with Patrick Mahomes and Kareem Hunt. Yeah.
They bring in no competition, and Kareem Hunt's a lot better than Spencer Ware, no matter what anybody says.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Spencer Ware sucks. Los Angeles Chargers did not add any offensive players until the 6th round when they took Dylan Cantrell at the 17th pick in the 6th round, wide receiver from Texas Tech. This doesn't hurt anybody. I don't think anyone's a fantasy winner or loser.
Yeah, I mean, Dylan Cantrell, he's a really good. He's another guy who's a slot receiver who doesn't look like he's a slot receiver. He looks like he can play a flanker role, so I don't know. Maybe keep an eye out on him, but Mike Williams is the guy to get there.
Yeah, it's kind of a depth for me because obviously Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, Tyrell Williams, and they still got Travis Benjamin on the squad. Hunter Henry is great out of for the tight ends. Melvin Gordon is still involved in the passing game. There's just too many other options for I think anyone to take a hit because of Cantrell.
Right.
Los Angeles Rams are loaded with talent, so they only took one guy who could even give you any fantasy points outside of IDP, John Kelly, running back from Tennessee at the 602.
I despise you, John Kelly. Winner's Todd Gurley because there's no competition there.
Yep, I 100% agree. Miami Dolphins took Mike Gesicki with the 10th pick in the second round, tight end out of Penn State, which fills a need.
Definitely. The winners, whoever ends up being the quarterback there, I guess it's Ryan Tannehill for now, but you never know with him. Injury plagues him. I like Ryan Tannehill a lot, but definitely their offense is the winner. They get another piece.
Yep, another guy to keep Devontae Parker from being fantasy relevant for the 4th straight year.
Oh, goodness.
Moving on here, Minnesota Vikings took Tyler Conklin, tight end out of Central Michigan, with the 20th pick in the 5th round.
Rudolph is the winner. I don't see Conklin even coming close to him.
Yep, I don't really see any winner or loser for this one either. He was just certainly the most relevant fantasy option there. New England Patriots took Sony Michel with the 31st pick in the 1st round, the running back out of Georgia. This was surprising.
Yeah, the loser is everyone in that backfield and me, because I cannot root for Georgia anymore. They're all on the Patriots.
I really wanted him to go somewhere where he was going to at least be partially the guy.
With the Colts? with the Colts.
Oh, I would have loved it. I don't know why. Like, I mean, I get why they didn't take a running back, but they had so many picks in this draft that they should have taken one of the studs early.
Just real quick, all of these names they could have got easily. You know, they could have even traded up because they got Sony Michel at the 31 pick, which probably wasn't that expensive. Michel, Freeman, they got Naheem Hines, so yeah, okay. Akram Wadley, he would have been a good sleeper there, definitely. I mean, they could have gotten – this running back class was so deep. They let me down. I was really hoping for that Colts offense to finally get that, you know, Joseph Adai running back.
Yeah, but at least they addressed the trenches.
That's true. That's true. I'm with you. And if Luck's healthy, I mean, Luck will make any running back look good, honestly.
Yep. New Orleans Saints drafted Traquan Smith with the 327, the wide receiver from UCF.
I guess Breeze. I mean, it's the Saints. We saw all wide receivers that are on the Saints, even going back to Willie Snead. I know you're a big Willie Snead fan. He succeeded with the Saints. That's basically the Drew Brees effect. Because then Willie Snead got hurt, and then who steps up? Brandon Coleman?
Yeah, who's the bigger loser, Ted Ginn or Brandon Coleman? Not that anyone was ever starting Coleman anyway.
Ginn, because Smith is going to fit into that slot role, and I think Cam Meredith goes to the Y, and Ginn goes back to the slot.
Oh, I completely forgot about Meredith.
Yeah,
yep.
I think now they can, if they get a quarterback, you know, if JT Barrett is really this guy for him, and he's the successor to Breeze, he has the best wide receiver core in the NFL already to build up.
It's looking good for him, man. I would say Coleman probably takes the biggest hit, but he probably isn't going to be rostered in redraft anyway, unless both Michael Thomas and Cameron Meredith get injured.
Definitely.
New York Giants took Saquon Barkley with the second pick in the draft, the second overall running back from Penn State, who everybody was raving about. And he went to one of the two places that I didn't want him to go because they had the worst offensive lines, and he went to the Giants.
Am I allowed to say that Barkley is the loser? Is that a thing? Is that an option? Because that Giants offensive line is horrible. Yeah, they got Will Hernandez, and a friend of mine predicted that day one. They said they're going to get Barkley and then go Will Hernandez second round. Well, look, he was right, but he doesn't make the line better, really. I mean, that line has more problems in one position, one guard. That was my second least favorite place for Barkley to go. I wanted him to go to Tampa, regrettably, or the Colts. And that was my pick. But I think he's the loser. He's still a great guy. Great pick, great athlete, best running back I've ever graded. So he comes second to Todd Gurley because I was higher than Gurley on Barkley.
And I would say Eli Manning is a winner here.
I agree. Eli Manning is top 10 quarterback this year. You heard it here first.
Wow. Could be. Most likely won't be, but could be. Going to the other New Jersey team. The other New York team, the Jets. Sam Darnold with the third overall pick for quarterback out of USC.
The winner's the Jets. They haven't had a quarterback they can build around like this since Namath? Is that the last guy? What's the list of Jets quarterbacks?
Brett Favre.
A long list. I don't even think Brett Favre was good whenever he was with the Jets. That was his.
He wasn't.
They finally got the quarterback, so let's see how they build from now.
Yep. So the winner overall is the Jets.
They got the quarterback, so that's something they've been trying to get forever. Bryce Petty, Christian Hackenberg were flops. Hopefully, Darnold doesn't flop. The only thing that you can say against him is his turnovers, but the dude's a leader, and the dude knows how to come back whenever down big in a game. He doesn't lose focus after a pick. He's used to throwing them every play.
I like it. The Oakland Raiders did not take a position player until the 7th round. They took Marcel. Is it Ademan or Aitman? I'm not sure.
Aitman, man. I'm
Marcel Aitman.
I'm the biggest loser. God, I'm the biggest loser of this draft.
No, dude, you are not a winner or a loser in this. Take yourself.
Gruden hates me, man. I don't agree with any of his moves. I like Aitman, but he was projected to be a UDFA, an undrafted free agent. So
he nearly was. He went the 7th round. Yeah.
The receivers for the Raiders win definitely because this dude's 6'4", but he doesn't really play that aggressive. He doesn't play like that Megatron type of role where he can just boss up on anybody who goes for a ball. And I think that they brought in Martavis Bryant to be that guy. Brought in Martavis Bryant to be that tall speed guy. Aitman, maybe he converts to tight end. That would help the Raiders out a lot.
Yeah, that would fill a need for sure. I don't think anybody is really a fantasy loser here, aside from maybe Seth Roberts or something like that.
Yeah, I heard they might cut Seth Roberts or try to trade him in preseason.
Yeah, so could happen. Kind of an insignificant pick, though. Philadelphia Eagles traded up in front of the Dallas Cowboys to take the tight end that the Dallas Cowboys were going to take, just to spite them. They took Dallas Goedert at the 217, tight end from South Dakota State. Does this hurt Zach Ertz at all, or is this more he replaces Trey Burton?
It's more the Trey Burton side, but this helps out that offense so much. Dallas Goedert is a monster, and second to Mike Gesicki, and third to Mark Andrews, because my rankings go Mark Andrews, Mike Gesicki, then Goddard, and he's a monster. He is a full-blown monster, and he's going to do great. I mean, him and Zach Ertz, my goodness, those are some big human beings.
So we can say that Carson Wentz is certainly the winner of this draft.
Or Nick Foles. I heard that there's a controversy. Some people in the locker room are splitting up on whether they want Carson or Foles to be their quarterback. So
wow. That's something we will certainly keep an eye on.
Yeah, it helps the whole team. I mean, look what you got.
Pittsburgh Steelers took James Washington, wide receiver out of Oklahoma State, with the 28th pick in the second round. I don't know if this really hurts anybody. He might just take over the Martavis Bryant role.
This is a trend we've been seeing for the past few years. Juju was not a first round, but a second or third round pick last year. I think he slides into Juju's role, and Juju, takes over the Martavis Bryant role possibly. I think
so. He slides into a slot at least.
Basically, yeah. I think Juju is going to. He played the X. He played the main receiver spot whenever Brown went down, and he proved that he could be good at it. So I think Juju takes a big step up, because James Washington was some people's wide receiver ones. In the dynasty community, definitely people were very high on him. So just a name to get in the late draft if you want a little piece, an inexpensive piece of that offense. And Ben Roethlisberger overall, yeah. I think that's a great winner.
Yeah, Roethlisberger is my winner for this one as well. Moving on to the Seahawks, we already talked about this guy a little bit at the beginning when Pete Carroll said he was a 3-down back. Rashad Penny with the 27th overall pick, running back out of San Diego State University. Hard to call him a winner when he's behind that line, but I would say Russell Wilson is a winner here.
I would say Russell Wilson's a winner too. You kind of took it from me. If they run RPOs, run pass options with Penny and Wilson, who are you going to pick? I
don't know.
They're speedy guys, and
you're going to have three guys following them.
Definitely. That's a winner right there. Their offense has flair again.
I like it.
That was the most surprising pick of the draft, right?
Oh yeah, that was way earlier than anybody thought. He was
late second round at most. Come on, man.
Yeah, that surprised everybody. Didn't they trade up to get him, or did they trade back for him?
I think they traded for the Packers pick that the Packers got from the Saints. So I think that's the pick that they got him with.
Yeah, they got the guy they wanted. That's all that matters.
Look, that's it. Pete Carroll, he knows what he's doing. Can't knock him.
San Francisco 49ers took Dante Pettis, wide receiver out of Washington, with the 12th pick in the second round. I think this makes Marquise Goodwin a winner.
It makes Marquise Goodwin a winner because Marquise Goodwin is going to play. I think he might move out to the Y.
That guy's going to ball out this year.
Definitely. The loser is my boy Trent Taylor. That's my homie. We from the same grounds, kind of. I don't know him personally, but that's my homie. Like, I'm rooting for him. I want to root for. This dude's a 5'9" little white boy from Louisiana. I want to see him succeed. We got some big time studs like Odell and Jarvis and stuff, but they're big people. I want this little dude to succeed, and Pettis is gonna compete with him. So I think it's a loser because Pettis can provide more instinctive movements than Trent Taylor. Trent Taylor is still sharpening his skills.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers drafted Ronald Jones with the 6th pick in the second round, running back out of USC. And I want to take a quick pause here and say, Hoos, I told you that Peyton Barber was not going to be the starter in Tampa Bay. He is not good. He's not going to be starting there. They're going to draft somebody, so suck it. Winner, Jameis Winston.
Man, you might kick me off the show. Hoos, I'm with you on Peyton Barber. He's my winner. I don't think Rojo.
Damn, what?
I don't think Ronald Jones, Rojo, is anything really. I'm not high on him. He was my running back 7.
Peyton Barber isn't anything either.
But I think he is, though. I think he can be. They need to stick to one guy. They used 4 different guys in one game last year, which is ridiculous. Why would you do that with Peyton Barber, Doug Martin, Jacquizz Rodgers, and Charles Sims? But then there was 5. The guy from the Falcons that played, he looks like a bowling ball. I can't remember his name, but I mean,
Jacquizz came from the Falcons.
Yeah, there's another one I'm trying to think of. It doesn't matter, but I just don't think Ronald Jones is the answer there. Now, he can prove me wrong, and I would love for him to prove me wrong because I'm big on USC running backs, but I just don't think he takes over like people think. That's just me. He's slow. He's not as fast as he should be. His playing speed is slower than his actual speed is basically what I mean.
Peyton Barber is 4th on the depth chart right now.
Yeah, just keep an eye out.
The Tennessee Titans only had 4 picks in the draft because they traded a ton of them away. Luke Falk with the 25th pick in the 6th round, quarterback from Washington State. More just a depth move. Does this hurt Mariota?
No, it doesn't. Mariota's, they're building around him. They're building the whole offense around him. So
there we go. No winners or losers for the Titans there. Lastly here, the Washington Redskins took Darius Geis after he fell to the 59th overall, the 27th pick in the 2nd round, running back out of LSU, going to the Redskins.
Yeah, look.
Samaje Perine is a loser.
This is a weird pick because Geis is so talented, man. He's just a head case right now. He has so many things going on with him. All the reports of the lies and stuff he's been saying, being caught up. That's why he slid in the draft, all the lies that they caught him in the day of the draft. So I guess the Redskins is the winner. Perine is the loser. But I wouldn't invest in him in Dynasty. I'm trying to stay away from him because I don't want him running back.
Did you happen to hear what was making teams stay away?
Yeah, basically, you remember the reports that came out where he was saying the combine interviews where they were asking him if he was gay or if he was this, that.
Yeah.
He was lying about all that. He told different teams different stories about the same thing, and none of them added up. And then he even said, oh, yeah, one of these teams didn't even interview me. I was lying. So
that's shady.
That, and then the companies he keeps. He hangs out with a lot of Southern celebrities, I'll put it that way, a lot of rappers, and Southern rappers aren't really the best company, I guess, to put yourself around, Louisiana rappers. But that's really it. People are scared of his off-the-field influence.
Gotcha. Well said. I hadn't heard that yet.
The whole Fortnite thing, too, is a joke. Let the kid play Fortnite.
Yeah, the dude's 20, 21, if he wants to play video games.
He's 20 years old, man. I'm older than 20 years old, and I'm playing Fortnite. It's a fun little game.
He can't go buy a beer. Let him play a damn video game.
Right.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the SleeperWire show. As you guys know, SleeperWire is a charity. We're dedicated to making a difference in people's lives. That's the whole reason we do the podcast, and that's the whole reason we do the SleeperWire Pro-Am. To enter for a chance to play in the Pro-Am, it is super easy. Go to GoFundMe.com/RobJR and donate. Every multiple of $10 gets you a raffle ticket for the Pro-Am, so donate $10 and it's 1 ticket. $30 gets you 3 tickets, and so on. Take a screenshot of that donation and send it to sleeperwire@gmail.com and visit www.sleeperwire.com/pro-am for more details. You can also follow us on Twitter at SleeperWire Show. I'm on there at CMOR SleeperWire. Draft Genius is on there at The Draft Genius. You can find us on Sleeperbot at Professor Chris and SW Draft Genius, and on the Fantasy Life app at Professor Chris. Well, thanks for listening, guys. We'll catch you next time.